going out with the client, you can hit the directions button off of a listing, and it'll use the GPS on the phone to give you the fastest routing to the location. If you're out at one of your properties, you can actually take photos directly out of the application, and it automatically uploads them into the system for you. So you don't have to move them from your phone to your computer or your camera to your computer. It will do all that in one shot. So there's a lot of additional benefits in the mobile use of the application. And every feature that you have on your desktop works on your mobile device as well. So this keyword searching is pretty robust. It's kind of like, you know, Google searching. It can pick up anything in the market that matches the criteria. So I'm going to walk through. I have lease chat or type is for lease. The color code on the dots represents the different asset classes. So you can drill in, say you're looking retail, and then as you go in further, it will keep knocking down the options for you. So if you wanted office space in a retail building, you could check that and return any retail space that was already set up for office. All this data in the system is managed by our researchers. So when we first go out to a market, we go in and we build out every building that's in the market. So I'm going to zoom down here, get down to a street level view. I'm going to turn off my criteria so everything shows. And you'll see that every commercial property along the street has been identified. In the Dallas-Fort Worth market, we've identified over, we're now about 62,000 buildings in the marketplace, about 3 billion square feet of commercial space. We don't have size limits, so we go all the way down to you know, a gas station with a little 10 by 10 shed for a payment pump. So if it's commercial, it's in the system. One of the other features that is unique about our system is it's called research on demand. For example, the researchers did not add this property here to the system, and any user of the system can request that they add this property by just clicking on that minus sign, and it's request research. Within 2 hours, the researchers will add that property in and notify the person that wanted information about it, and they'll have that information about that property within a couple hours, so they can use it for sending to a client, contacting the owner. All the information that we have will be associated to that property. The other thing that's unique, again, to our system, as you can see, there's parcel boundaries on everything. And you can see this piece of property right here has 4 buildings on it. We track leases and rates and buildings by building. So you would be able to go in and see what the average rents were in this particular building versus this building versus this building. If you were selling the asset, you could actually go in and look at historically what the rents were by building, by square footage, to get an actual rent roll on the property. So again, one parcel with 4 buildings on it.
Where do you get the rental information from?
We track it from the brokers.
And the brokers there in Dallas are forthcoming?
Pardon me?
And so the brokers in Dallas will share with you rental information?
It is broker by broker.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, most brokers won't tell you the term, or they'll usually give you a tenant, and 50% of the time they'll tell us what the lease rate was on it.
Okay.
And it's usually not the broker that's listing the property. It's usually the broker that leased the property.
That did the deal. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other ways that they can share information with us without making it public, and I'll show you that as we walk through.
Okay.
But there's also a way for internal, like if your company represented this property, you could actually manage those transactions and create your own rent roll that nobody could see.
Oh, okay.
So I will show you how that works as well, because that's key, so that offices can keep their own comps and their own detailed comps, if they're confidential or not, can still store them in the system. We can't see them. Other brokers can't see them unless you share them with them, and you can create a rent library on any property. And I'll show you in a few minutes how that works. But just to give an overview, because we have every building in the marketplace, you can do things like analytics. You can see absorptions. You can control, asking rents on buildings, and it's not just a segment of the market. In Dallas, we're tracking 4,200 brokers and all the availabilities that they represent. So we have in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we have over 16,000 availabilities that are updated every 30 days. So it's a very proactive system. So some of the other features in here for searching, you can go in and the drawing tools, if you're looking for a property in this area here, you can just draw a circle around it, apply that, and we'll only pull up the properties in that area. If you're looking for property for lease in that area, it'll pull those up. If you want retail, if you want available square footage, 2,500 to 3,500, it'll pull those up. If you can, again, continue to narrow down your search based off criteria. So you can then go into any of these properties. You can look at them. This tile right here is our snap view, which is our quick view of the property. You can expand that tile to get more information. Under the property overview, you will see all the details about the property, the legal owner, the parcel, a link to the county records. So you go straight to the county to get the most current information on that asset from every property in the system. You can go into a listing and see what's available, what's going on with it, the marketing flyer on the property, the broker. You can click on the broker's name. It'll pull up that broker and it will access the system and pull in all the properties that he's currently marketing. You can jump over to the company and pull in all the brokers from that company. And again, remember that we started in April, and we have all the 4,200 brokers in the marketplace. So it's not just members in here, it's everybody in here. And again, you can dig into one of the any broker, and see their inventory. So I'm going to hit back to the search button, and that'll take me back to where I was. And again, you can drill into these properties. We've talked about the flyer, talked about the information. If this is a search that I have a client that's looking for in this specific area, I can go in here and save this search. Don't want to conflict this. See, we'll do a demo retail. And say anytime a new listing gets added to the system, I want to email immediately. So now that's saved, and every time the researchers add a new listing to the system, within 2 minutes I'll have an email that says there's a new listing that matches my demo retail search.
And that's for the area circled, correct?
That's only for this search criteria that I have.
Okay, let me ask you.
It's an area circled, and it's my square footage range, and for lease retail.
Let me ask you an additional question.
Okay.
In terms of access to information, what will the general public, John Q. investor, see as opposed to members? What's the different access? How much can they access? How much can the public access?
The same that they can access right now. And it would be available on Catalyst.com, just like your listings currently are.
Okay.
It's a subset of the data, and it's only members listings that get moved up to Catalyst.com. So all the non-member data would not be exposed to the public.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
So then from any one of these properties, I can go into these, we call them one-click reports. So I can go in here and I can pull a demographic report on this property. It doesn't have to be listed. Again, any building in the system, you can generate a demographic report. And the nice thing about the demographic data is we're down to the block level. So it's the most detailed level of demographics. And the nice thing is we've cleaned up these reports where we give you, your 1, 3, and 5 mile radius. You can also choose drive time, 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute drive time. We give you a photo of the property with the parcel boundary on it, and then we visualize the data for the client. Most demographic reports are all textual. They're just a bunch of data. And we try to clean that up and give it a much more visual presentation so that they can make some quick observations based off the data.
Hi, so I had a question about the data that's in here.
Yes.
The individual properties, is the for rent information, is that pulled from a separate CIE system, or is everyone in the is everyone whose property is listed on this part of the bigger
No.
program?
No, only 1% of the, a little bit, I guess it's about 2% of the members that we collect data from are actually members of the system.
Okay.
So if, for example, CBRE is not a subscriber of our system, but every one of their listings is in the system.
Okay.
And we actually get a data feed from them out of their internal database once a month to verify their data. So this is a fully researched. So it's not a broker-loaded, a member-loaded system. It's a fully researched application.
Okay.
And then all the buying expenditures and information. So very in-depth demographics. Again, from the one-click screen, you can do nearby businesses. So this will pull an aerial map with nearby businesses. Again, this is for any property in the system, you can generate this report. And that's available nationwide. So we track over 600,000 major businesses around the whole United States. Aerial map with parcel boundary. Again, all these one-click reports are just those time-consuming things that the brokers do over and over and over again, or have their admin staff do. Or in some companies, it's just too expensive and can't be done. But it's all included in the application. A good example was this nearby business report here. At the Cushman Wakefield office, it takes them between 2.5 hours and 3 hours every time a broker needs one of these reports to generate it. And the man hours to generate this versus the cost of subscribing to the application, it mitigated the entire thing. So they're signing up for our service just to hit this button. And there's one more button that they want as well. We did there. I'll go in the office and look at the tenant stuff. This Google Earth KML file, if you've used Site to Do Business, I mean, I've taught Site to Do Business for a long time. And if you went into Site to Do Business to generate what it just took about 3 seconds to generate, it would take you at least, if you're really good at it, it'd take you about 3 hours. If you're a little slow at it, it'd take you 5 hours, or you'd give up. What this just did in 3 seconds. So this creates a Google Earth file that you can share with your client. You can send this file to your client. It'll do a 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute drive time. It will pull in all those businesses, plot them on the map, and then give you all the nearby traffic counts in 3 seconds. And that's for any property in the system, whether it's has availability in it or not. And that's the other piece that Cushman is switching over for, just because to do this again, they just don't do it anymore because it's too time consuming. So we have a whole bunch of geospatial stuff and data integrated in the system. We can go in here, we could save all of these that match my criteria. So I'm going to save all results. I'm going to create a new list. I'll call it Demo 630. You can add multiple brokers to it. So I'll throw another broker on here. I'll save that. You'll notice that they all have checks on them now. So everything with the check is in my list. So if I went in here and changed my search criteria to maybe 5,500, you would see more dots show up without checks on them. So I can see which ones I have in my list and which ones I don't. So I could go into this one and say, yep, let's add that. So I just check that space, and now it's added to my list. So it's very easy to manage what you're looking at, what's available, what matches criteria. I can go to my list. So this will pull up the list I have saved. I can remove spaces. I can change the order. So I can put them in the order that I want to show them to my client in. This way, every time you print them out, all the numbers will correspond. You just drag the photos to whatever order you want them to be in. Choose Done Reordering. If you want to eliminate some spaces, you can. You could just uncheck the building, and it'll drop the space out. And then if you want to change the order again, you can just jump in and change the order anytime you want. And then from there, again, you'll notice that this is the same tile as was on the map. So this little tile is our common tile. So every time you see this, you have access to all these reports. So even in my list, if I wanted to go in and the client wanted more information about that one, or let's say this one here, I could go to reports, do a retail logo on that, and could send that to the client. Again, everything has I could send them the PDF, or I could just email them the link, and he can click on it. 80% of the people are checking their email on the phone now, so a lot of times they don't want the PDF, they just want the link. When they're back at their computer, they'll pull it up, because they don't want to have to download that on their phone. The other thing is, you'll notice here that this property here, the broker had a negotiable rate on it, so they didn't give a public rate on that property. So if you called Easily and said, hey, I'm showing your property, what are you asking on it? He said, we're looking for 25. So you can click edit, change the rate on it to 25, and triple net's maybe 425. You can change whatever information you want. If you want to put notes in for your client, so you put whatever notes in you want for your client, you save that, and now you'll notice that on the report here it shows the 25 rate. And it also shows that this space was edited, which alerts you that you've made changes to this. So every time you now include the space in your report, it'll have your updated information on it. So if you go to click edited, and it will show you what fields you modified. Okay. And so when I was talking about, if you wanted to, let's say this was a lease comp, and you knew all the information on this lease comp, you knew the terms, the rates, the escalations, everything, you could go in, and we call it masking. You could put all that information on that comp, and only you have access to it. So nobody else will see this rate. We can't see it. The researchers can't see it. This is only for you and your viewing of the data. But it will also print out on your reports. Any questions on that? Because that's a huge tool. Again, most systems, every time you pull up a listing, you have to go in and put in the rate before you print it out. This way it's stored with the record, and every time you pull that listing up, it'll have your modified information on it. Okay? So the same thing with this one here. They didn't have a rate on this one. They wanted 27.35. And you go in and collect all the additional information that you want on those. So then once you have them ready to go for the client, you can go to report. The reporting is very clean and it's fairly easy to use. I'm just going to choose a summary, listing brochure. I'll throw a map on there. You can change the order that they print out just again by dragging them. You can include the other broker's information on them. And the reports are all custom branded. So depending on your company, it'll have your customized header on the top of the reports so that they all match your marketing material. So I'm going to generate the report. And it'll bundle all these into one file. It'll give you the option to email a link to it or to send the PDF itself. The link is good for 20 days, and after 28 days, the link expires. And the reports, you'll notice that they're very clean, very crisp reports. All the numbering matches. Like this property had 2 suites in it, and you'll notice that it's number 6 twice. So that it's that building, when it shows up on the map or any of the reference material, it'll always be number 6. And then the listing displays, it'll have any additional photos over here on the right-hand side, floor plans, what other information has been loaded into it. So this one here's got a floor plan in it as well. And then lots of mapping. And again, these all correspond with the order that we put them in. And if you wanted an aerial map, let me close this. If you want an aerial map, let's remove these. If you want an aerial map, you can do an aerial map. So you have all your different choices in mapping and display. The other thing, which again, a lot of brokers try to do, is position the properties on, because most of the institutional players use Google Earth as their research tool. So a lot of brokers pin, listings to Google Earth, and it's very time consuming. There's a Google Earth tab here. You can generate that report. This will generate a file that you can send to the client. Let me hide that research that we did here. So here's the properties that we're showing the client. And again, they're all matching the number order that are on all the printout material and everything else. And when they click on them, they can see the pictures as well. So everything corresponds. They can see what the parcels look like and everything else. And then again, if you send them the overlay of the nearby businesses and distances, they can overlay that on top of it. So they can layer it up as much as they want. You can also export in Excel. There's a single line version, which is just one line per record. So if you want to do calculations, graphs, charts, you can do that on that. Or we have what we call it the summary. It's just kind of a fancier report. Most brokers use this to send clients updates on here's all the new spaces that have come on the market. And this opens up in an Excel format, and they can scroll through it. Includes a photo, everything else. It's nice, clean, easy way to quickly send out information about a large set of data. Let's jump back to the searching. We'll show you a couple other features that are in the system. We have geospatial. Let me reset my map here. And that'll clear all my search criteria and bring me back to the starting point. I can do things like I just want to see office buildings that are within walking distance of a train station. So there's every office building within a quarter-mile walking distance of a train station. And I want to see what's available for lease. And my client needs about 8,000 square feet to 9,000 square feet in a Class A building. So you can very quickly drill in and see what is available that matches the criteria. And then you can pull up the property. And again, let's go to here's a tenant report. So this will pull up the tenants that are in that building. You can also export that tenant list to a Excel file. So if you want to import it into your CRM, and again, all the same features. If you want to drill into the details of the building, you can go to the details, go to the characteristics of the building, all the additional collected information, drill into the brokers, flyers, everything that's available on the property from this one window. You can go to full page, which will give you a full page layout of the property. You can edit the property. Again, this is the same as masking. Or maybe you knew of a transaction that occurred in that building that you wanted to add as a transaction. You could add a transaction. So you could add a lease transaction to that building. This is a key part here. Make these changes visible to everybody. If you want to share that comp with everybody, you check that box and it's public. Otherwise, it would just be your private comp in that building. If you want to add a listing to that building, you can go in here and add a listing from right here. Jump back to the search. So again, you have pretty much total control of the property. You want to zoom down to the building, you can do that. Back out. Choose another property. Zoom in. Again, I hope you're appreciating the speed and of the service. It's pretty phenomenal how fast it is. So close that. I'm going to go into my reports. One of the other options is reports, is site selection. So if you are going to do a site selection for a client, let's say Denny's, they're easy. So Denny's has a requirement that they can't put another franchisee within 2 miles of an existing Denny's. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to pull up Denny's, and I'm going to do a circle radius around Denny's in Dallas County, 2 mile radius, and I'm going to make it yellow. So I'll generate that, and it will create all the Denny's in Dallas and 2 mile radius around them. I'll add Tarrant County to it as well. And again, this is available for the whole U.S., so it's just not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We can do this any place. So there you have the Dallas and the Dallas County and Tarrant County and all the Denny's. If you wanted to see where the current IHOPs are, because Denny's likes to be near IHOP, so we can go in here and we could just put the IHOPs on the map. And turn off these properties up here. So there you can see where the current IHOP locations are. in relation to the Denny's. There's potential out here. There's an IHOP, no Denny's. Something's happening out there. A lot of times they'll say, I want to be within a 5-mile radius or 5-minute drive time of Walmart. That is at ICSC this year. That was one of the most requested pieces of information, and we had people, run into our booth to get these reports. So we go Walmart. We're going to do a drive time ring around it, 5 minutes, and we'll put green. Generate Tarrant County. So this will pull up all the Walmarts with a 5-minute drive time around them. So you can see there's all the Walmarts. Let me turn some of this off here. So there's all the Walmarts in Tarrant County with a 5-minute drive time around them. Again, if you try to do any of this in any of the other systems, it takes hours. We have hundreds and hundreds of businesses in our system, sit-down restaurants. So we've got all the major franchises. If there's a local one that services more than 20 locations, we'll add it in. And so some of the regional ones that have a lot of locations, we'll add in. But there's a lot of options for site selection tools. And a lot of times, clients, their tenants want to know, well, what's around or what fast food restaurants are around. So these tools work for tenant reps and all the different platforms. So that's Site Selector, again, which is included. And even if you're trying to do a site selection in an area that you're not currently in, you can use that tool throughout the country. If you just wanted to show somebody where all the Starbucks in Louisiana, let's go. So there's your Starbucks locations. And again, you could just drill into anything that you want, add whatever information you want, and keep building it out. So I want to make sure that we're about 40-some minutes into the call, and I know we're on a time frame. So I want to make sure I answer all your questions and show you how everything works. So I guess I'll jump to question time and make sure that we've addressed everything.
I have one. This is Paul Richard. What got us started on this iteration was the need for research reports, not only for New Orleans, but for the major metros in Louisiana and Mississippi, our LACDB area, and the ability to provide those reports to the membership or to the public on a timely basis. So if we wanted to do a report, say, on office buildings in New Orleans for the first quarter of the year, could that happen under this system?
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming to September. We're turning all of our reports on live in the system because we'll have 4 quarters. We didn't want to turn them on live until we had 4 quarters of analytics. But I can show you how it'll work. So remember how that save search worked? Let me jump into this. So I'm just going to go back to this one here. So this is that save search that we did. What will happen as soon as analytics are turned on, you'll be able to go to that search and there'll be a button right here that says analytics. And you'll be able to get analytics based on your specified market area, or you'll be able to go up here under your name to the analytics section and choose the predefined market area so that you can do the New Orleans CDB if that is a market area for you, and do the analytics for that. And let me jump in here and let's pull up some examples of some analytics here. So here's an absorption report by quarter, by market. So you'll be able to do those on the fly anytime you want. And the way we do analytics is every day it's ran. So you'll always be able to do the last quarters that we have in history plus the current quarter to today. So every time you pull them, you'll always have all the data, including the current quarter as of today. So if there were 10 days in the current quarter, whatever's happened in that 10 days is in the system, because the analytics process each night.
Okay.
And there's a whole bunch of reports. There's the by building reports. Let's see if I have them here.
So if CID wanted to provide, say, a snapshot of the overall market for a quarter or biannually or annually, it could be run for all of the market categories that we select, or is there a pre-designed template that would do that?
It's either way. If you want to generate a custom report that you just hit the button on once a month and we bundle it up for you, we can do that. Or you'll be able to go into the analytics tab and generate your own analytic report.
Okay, because some of our media partners have been requesting information, consistent information that they can publish on a regular basis for the general public.
Right.
And that was one of our requirements, was to try to be able to accomplish that with this new system.
Absolutely. So for Houston, I've been providing the Houston Business Journal up until 3 years ago when I sold my prior company. I provided them with all the analytics for the Houston market, the Business Journal with all the analytics for the Houston market. We even hosted the commercial properties for lease and for sale page on the Houston Chronicle. I did the same thing for Seattle and 21 other markets. So we would give them the raw data versus a pre-printed report. They would actually get a raw data feed that they could put into their format that they use to publish the paper with. So absolutely, I've been doing that for the last 20 years.
Can I ask? Yeah, go ahead.
Alan, this is Kenny Hurst. If there's a need in a market, somebody says, I'm looking for a warehouse, and nothing's on the board, and
Nothing's listed, you mean?
nothing listed, it's not out there, and somebody says, well, at least we could do this on the residential side. When something shows up in the market, it will fire off an email to you saying we just got this in place. Is that something this can do as well?
Yeah, so that's what we covered in that in the Save Search, where you set it to your notification. You want to be notified immediately, or daily, or weekly. So those are the three options. So within 2 minutes of a listing going in that matches your search criteria, you will have an email. So I mean, they call them hot sheets. They call them all sorts of different things. But it's all based off that search criteria that your client's looking for. The other thing you can do is, for example, if you knew about, maybe there was a for sale by owner, you knew about a building, you could actually go in here. Let me clear my criteria out of here. So let me just find an industrial building here. Oops. Okay, so I could go into an industrial building. These don't have photos, they're not very pretty. But I could go into any of these industrial buildings. Let's go down here and look at it. So this is a mini storage. So maybe this mini storage, you heard that when you talked to the owner, he said he may be interested in selling it, and you want to include it in your report. You can actually go in here to details, full page, and add a listing. And you would not make it visible. You could actually put that listing in here, and it would be generated in your reports as an additional listing to show to the client. And nobody has access to that. Our researchers don't have access to it. It's basically your own library of information that you can include in with the other data. And that way it matches the report and everything else. If you went out with to the property with your phone, you could take a picture, and the picture would load into it as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of individual functionality into the system as well. Or, for example, that's all part of the same piece. Okay. You can go in and control the information and get access to everything that you want. So yes, the hot sheet's included in here. That's all under the Save Search.
How are the figures on sales generated on these? Does it come from not from somebody putting it in, but from maybe tax?
Yeah. So if it is a member, they usually mark the listing as sold or send us information about the sale transaction. If it's a non-member, every week we get a feed from the it's a title company that we subscribe to, and they give us a feed of all the transactions that occurred during the prior week, and then those are all put into the system. So let me reset this just to give you a sense of that. So we went back 4 years on everything. So if I go sold, we got over 5,500 sales transactions in this system. So we augment assessor data with data that was provided by the members. And sometimes we actually, well, it's a little bit different because you guys are a CIE, so you have additional rules. But many times we get the data before we get notification from the user that it was sold, and it's already been closed out in the system. But anything else that they give us in details, we add it and supplement it.
So let me ask a question, a situational. A member property sells. Let's say it sells for $1 million, and when he processes the sale, he checks off "Do not disclose" or whatever the button is that to click off that does not make it public. Okay, but another member is doing a comparable sale analysis in that area. Would that information show up? Would the sale information on that particular building show up, or because a member who sold it chose not to make it public, it would not show?
Is New Orleans a non-disclosure state? Is Louisiana a non-disclosure state?
No, we're full disclosure.
Okay, so again, we'll follow whatever rules you want us to follow, but everything's one click away. So if I pulled up a property, and if the broker said he didn't want to show the sell price, I'm one click away from the transaction at the county.
Okay.
So I would encourage to again, those are your rules.
Yeah, no, I understand. I was just asking, because everything in Louisiana is public, unless
right.
You do, $1 and other valuable considerations as a part of the sale to hide that. So technically, a member couldn't freeze out the sale data for any property.
Correct. But if you call that member and they say what it sold for, maybe they don't want to tell everybody, but they'll tell you, you can put the mask on it and you'll have it in your system as a comp.
Sure. No. Okay. All right.
So that masking is a very powerful component.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Yeah. That's all the questions that I have, Alan.
Okay.
Ken, Herb, y'all have any questions?
No, just a comment. It's amazing that every time we look at the demo, we see the work that's been done. So, you know, clearly this is a product that's still growing and developing and having new features added.
Yeah, it's I'd say it's probably, it'll never be finished, and it's probably 10% of the way there. We're adding new features all the time, and let me clear this. And we're constantly adding new features. We have a whole list running through the next 9 months of feature adds.
I'm just curious, like on Dallas, how many counties are you covering there?
We cover, well, we're not just Dallas, so let me zoom back out here. So we're now researching Austin and San Antonio.
Well, I guess my question is more for a single market area that's come in. How many counties are you like covering for Dallas-Fort Worth?
Well, the Dallas-Fort Worth market is 11 counties.
Okay. That y'all have gone out and mapped and figured out every building on and all that?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And again, the difference, I want to be clear, the difference on between Louisiana is where you guys already have an organization in place. Dallas-Fort Worth was that we went into that market and we're selling that directly in that market.
Right.
We got to choose where the boundaries were and everything.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. And then the way we look at markets is, you know, how many buildings are in the market, the size of the market, the number of commercial buildings, transactions, all that stuff. We pull from there.
Alan, is the data for New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and the local area in the system yet?
Yeah. Well, this is the East Baton Rouge, which I threw in a while ago. Just when I was doing a demo, it's always nice to see your own market in there and how does it look. And so this is the East Baton Rouge area. And let me get rid of this. See if I had any other buildings in there. Yeah. So here's and I just threw a building in just for demo purposes. But you can see the market if you go to the reports. Nearby businesses, pulls that up. It's all integrated in demographics. Everything works in that market. So I just wanted to kind of show you what your data would look like in your market. It looks exactly the same. So I've been communicating with the parishes in preparation for this. Collecting the data and just keeping the ball moving forward.
And have you been looking, like I'm from Shreveport, have you like contacted parishes up in the north part of the state?
Yeah, I've been, this is the geek side of it, so it doesn't probably mean anything to anybody, but there is a whole GIS group that you have to infiltrate, and I've been able to infiltrate the group. So so once the geeks start communicating, a lot of things start happening.
Okay. So when you go into a market, again, you were talking about that it's just fully researched. It's not for, member loaded. So do you drive the market? How do you identify every building? Is it aerials?
It's aerials, it's tax data, it's everything we can do to even, driving around the market.
And so then is it you obviously get with the assessors to a certain extent, and then is it contacting the brokers and owners? Do you take it to that level, or?
Well, and most of the time we don't need to,
Okay.
because of our we buy the highest resolution aerial photography, and most aerial photography now has been flown within the last year.
Okay.
And I mean, we count doors, everything from the aerial, because in the past, you can't get into some of the industrial areas. They won't let you in, especially now with after 9/11, you just can't get in. But we can go in through here and see, how many, the grade level doors there are. We can see all the information that we want, and we actually survey each property and collect that information on it.
Okay.
And then the thing is, we get all the base information in, we identify all the buildings, get all the square footage in, and then we just keep constantly adding on to it. And then when something comes up available for lease, we get more information from the brokers on it.
Right. Okay.
So it's just a constant, forever cycle of building the universe out. And things like this, let's go, let me jump back over here. But even things like, let's see. So here's all the proposed properties in Dallas-Fort Worth. Here's all the properties that are under construction in Dallas-Fort Worth. So even if they're not there, we find out about them and add them to the system.
And that's just probably from building permits and such?
Every way you can imagine that we can interpret data and collect it. But most stuff that's under construction, they're trying to lease it, they're trying to sell it, they're trying to do something with it, or it's an owner-occupied situation. And we even have a report where they overlay 3-year-old images on top of current images, and where the buildings didn't exist before, but they're now something there. We can tell what parcels have had activity on them.
Okay.
And then once we go through and identify all the commercial properties, we can eliminate all the residential stuff, so we don't get an alert that there was a pool added to a property. So we're only looking at the properties that have been identified as commercial. And then land. Let's talk about land real quick, because that's always a tricky component. So we make a decision not to include every piece of land that could potentially be commercial into the system on launch. Anything that's for sale or for lease land, we add to the system. But because of that research on demand, a broker can go in here and say, you can see where the freeway is going to come through here. And a broker's going, I'm going to try to market this property. I want to find out who the owner is on it. They can request research on that, and we'll add it in for them. But, there's land on every, actually it's in there now, but there's land on every corner, every street, and just polluting the system with land that may not be zoned commercial or could have a commercial potential. We wait for the brokers to request that land to come in. But anything that gets requested, we add into the system.
Okay, and then I guess this relates it does relate to cost. I'm assuming there's an initial cost for each market, but do you have to have a minimum number of members? Obviously, New Orleans, would have a lot more members than I would have up here in Shreveport-Bossier. So would that $90 per month per person be the same, or would it change just because of the fewer members? that would be more costly?
I can't answer that because I have not been involved in the conversations around the pricing for LACDB.
Okay.
So I know Ken has a good grasp on that, and
Yep. Neil and I have been working on that for quite some time, going back and forth, and I think our plan, just for anybody who's on the call in terms of next steps, is that following the call, we'll put together kind of an outline or a term summary that we'll email out to the directors to take a look at, that would kind of include kind of a proposed implementation plan on how we could begin to roll this out as soon as this year.
Okay.
But that's something that we're looking to probably put out in the email tomorrow.
Okay. Well, Alan, it is phenomenal.
oh, thank you. We're very proud of it. And the nice thing is, I guess, Ken, one of the questions that we had that I didn't get answered on is typically when somebody has access to the research system, they have access to all the data and all the markets that are in the research system. And you guys are going to have to make a decision whether you want to be included in that access to everybody or proprietary and only they can see the Louisiana market and they can't see any of the other markets because it's an in or out. So that's something that I don't think we've ever discussed, but I was thinking about that the other day. And because, for example, like if you're paying for research in Dallas-Fort Worth, you get every market that we have data for, research data for. And you know, we're planning on Houston coming in. I know that's a big partner with you guys. So that's something you guys will have to decide.
Sure.
I'm good.
Any last questions?
Alan, thank you very much. This was very helpful.
You're welcome.
And you're going to be sending out the
That is correct. Yeah, keep an eye on your inboxes tomorrow for some additional information to come from us on some numbers and some implementation decisions. I guess like we'll be sure to include that one that Alan just mentioned in terms of accessibility there. That's a new one, but we'll watch the inboxes for tomorrow for some additional information.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna hit the end button on this, and it's gonna knock everybody off, unless you want me to keep it live for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep it live for a few minutes, Alan. Do you want to reach back out to me? How do you want to proceed?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll contact you here, Neil.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah.
Very good.
Everybody, thank you very much for spending your time. We look forward to working with you on this project. It's going to be nice.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the time.